Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me again for a wonderful podcast that we have here at StudioME. Today, I have a very great guest for you, and I'm not just saying that. She's a very old friend of mine, and let me just tell you some things about Jess. She's performed in 4 feature films. She is an artist, she's an illustrator, she sells fake food, she's a photo editor for American Eagle. She also has won the Margaret Ann Garza Actor of the Year Award for 2020 for the feature film Galatea. There's a lot more to talk about, but the main thing that I want to get a point across in this episode is that Jess does a lot of stuff, and not just across the board, but she gets a lot done as well, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So this is Jess Paul, and thank you, Jess, for joining me today.
Hi, guys. Hi, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So every time that I talk to you, I feel like you've just accomplished something or you've just gotten more work done. So lately, what have you been, what have you gotten done lately?
Honestly, lately it's been really uphill, to the degree where I like cured my sleeping disorder because I'm in a good place right now as far as everything that's happened. The Actor of the Year award that you just mentioned, it just happened within this last month, about a month ago, and it was an event. It was a film festival that I was looking forward to for 2 years because of being delayed because of the pandemic. And I didn't know that I was nominated until more recently than that. But just to go to Awesome Revolution Film Festival, where we knew that Galatea was going to be premiering, was, as I called it, the light at the end of the tunnel during these past 2 years since 2020 and when this all kicked off. And when I got there, I kind of did exactly what I wanted to, had the best week of my life. It was my only vacation that I've taken for myself in a long time, meaning that I wasn't coming back to the Airbnb to do more work. I pretty much just let myself meet my peers, have amazing conversations, and watch some all over the board film. I was going to say some really amazing film, but like, that doesn't really cover the range of the kind of films that I got to watch at the festival.
The Austin Revolution Film Festival, I believe, is still the #1 most well-reviewed film festival on Film Freeway. Mm-hmm. So that's a wonderful accomplishment as well. Like to get your film there and also to be recognized as you were for that, most well-deserved in my opinion. And like, so one of the things that I guess that you mentioned there was your sleep schedule. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is being like consistently productive. And I think we'll definitely get into that kind of thing more. But like, you do so many things where you have your YouTube channel, your illustrative art, your acting. You also have been in the Jerry app commercials as well, which are terrific. I actually really like those commercials. So for your productivity though, like you do so many things, all right, and you've been like taking ground with them as well. Would you say there's a common denominator that keeps you going for like it's so diverse what you go across, but like as being a productive individual, like would you say there's a common denominator to all of that?
There definitely is a common denominator between the things that I choose to fill my hours with, and it happens to be that they're all expressionistic kind of art forms. I can't, like, a lot of people give me a lot of credit and compliment me a lot on doing so much, but I mean, and maybe this is to my detriment that I follow that up with, let me tell you about the things I can't do. I can't do math. I don't know how to drive a car. Like, and I just kind of, I kind of go on this list of the things that I not only, I can say that I'm not good at them, but to be quite honest, I'm not good at them because I never invested my time in them because it's something that I just am not interested in. Like I just said, one of my quirks, one of my many quirks is that I never got my driver's license. I'm 32 years old. I live in California and I never got a driver's license for quite a few reasons, but one being such that like ever since I was a teenager, I was filling this to-do list with projects that I wanted to complete, goals that I wanted to execute. And driving seems so boring and also so detrimental to the human race. Like if I got on the road, I feel like I could both, contribute to destroying our planet with fossil fuels, as well as I will most likely, if I ever did get a driver's license, my life would result in either killing myself on the road or other people because I'm just not coordinated. But yeah, I'm also being uncoordinated. I also can't dance, but I do dance because that won't kill people, So yeah, that is the common denominator when it comes to all the things that I interest myself in. I've said so many times in my life that I don't have enough lifetimes to finish all the things that I've wanted to experience, except actually recently I think I've figured it out, and we'll probably end up talking about that more because that's kind of a whole other tangent to go on of how I think I think I might be able to accomplish it in this lifetime. But yeah,
you've definitely put a lot of thought into prioritizing different skill sets or just what you're going to do with your time. With the things that you do choose to do, how do you prioritize ones over the others? Is there a consistent hierarchy of those activities, or is it just like if one starts to take off? Like, could you tell us a little bit more about like how you deal with that?
Great question. So when it comes to literally prioritizing the week, like I am constantly breaking down the it's time. To me, almost anything results in time. I get paid for my time. Am I wasting my time? Am I using my time correctly? Am I being efficient with my time? Because that's a cliche already that, your most important resource is your own time. And that applies to literally every human being on the planet. And that goes for also like I said, being calculated with your time, as well as what deserves your time, answering that kind of question. So I break down every single day into the hours in which I'm awake and what I can do in that amount of time. And a lot of people, they have hobbies. And at this point, I don't know, you would have to define what a hobby is between conversations, because most of even my hobbies ended up turning into businesses, which ended up turning into eventually like obligations. So that like, if somebody would put on their to-do list, like they would actually factor in relaxing time, like you can fill that space with anything that you enjoy. And I think that my only hobby at this point that goes in that spot is I have started to practice photography, which I never necessarily was great at, because again, I never toyed with it enough. Because most of the things I do is DIY. At least a lot of the different facets of the art forms are me figuring stuff out myself or using the internet in some capacity. But I'm a photographer who only takes photos of one subject, that being autumn. And I've started a blog, and it currently doesn't make me money, but I'm starting to figure out how it could. So eventually maybe that might become another obligation. But this is how I prioritize everything. I've got a little special thing to show you here. So I have a whiteboard. If I didn't have a whiteboard, I wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be able to run my life. Some people like written to-do lists, but I really prefer and also encourage a whiteboard because of the factor that is in front of your face. Both when I was living at home with my parents in Pittsburgh, which I did until I was 29 years old. I should have prepared this better. And now I've always had my whiteboard directly. So this is my big monitor, my computer, my whiteboard's right here. I can't spit without, seeing it. Like I will always be looking at it. And that it being in my peripheries is what kind of makes it or breaks it. So, I have a calendar, of course, like we all do on our phones, but when it comes to the day to day, And this week is a little light, to be quite honest. This is not in order. Okay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So these are my 4 days of that I create in succession of each other. I can only, as far as the day-to-day's to-do list, I can only concentrate up to 4 days. And then once the day gets all crossed off, we erase. And the reason why I've got these little panels here, these are magnets, and I've only got space enough for 4 of them. So it's a space thing as well as it is because I've had this whiteboard for a long time. Is this the one that I got? I think this is the one I got at the flea market for $1. Not expensive to run your life, like, you know, to prioritize everything. So
very thrifty.
Yes. So I will cross this all off and I will erase this, and then I'll move these guys down the line so that the most recent day is closest to me in my peripheries, and they're in a line, and then I'll start the day farthest from me after this is all, you know, erased, and I'll start thinking about 3 days ahead.
Do you think that sorry to sort of cut you off here a little bit, please. But do you find that you just said you're able to plan like maybe 3 days ahead and all that, or do you need to plan in detail very far like in advance of that, or is it like mostly you have a routine so that like
because when it goes week to week, like you fill the day job, that's 40 hours a week that you have. And then around that, things will come up, you know. My life is consistent of both routine and then surprises, spontaneity, especially when it comes to the acting world, the filmmaking world. They'll have you in for an audition, you know, a couple hours after you submitted, and then you have to go to the callback 2 days after that if you get it, and then you have to clear your future calendar if you get the role. So those kinds of, like, I do try to leave some space, but usually, you know, that will come in a couple days in advance. So after 4 days, I might have a clear calendar of to-do list to fit those kinds of things in, and I'll of course rearrange if it wasn't already there, if the space wasn't already there. But like I was saying about the hours in the week, I, at this point, because of this whiteboard, have become very knowledgeable to how long something will take me, how long, like, say, for example, I just ran out of pies. I ran out of my cherry pies, which are one of my best sellers. You want to see some fake food? Is this a video podcast?
This is a video podcast, yeah. But if you want, we can also just like put images up after the fact, like in post.
I have them here.
Oh,
here's my apple pie.
Okay.
Look how good that looks. This one has a real tin.
And to clarify to the folks at home, that is fake food.
That is fake food.
So what would
this
we
is
do
one of my most recent creations. Look at this party waffle. I've seen this on the menu at a couple diners around here in Los Angeles. Oh my God, our diners.
Now,
so cute.
Explain to people, because I know the answer to this, but like explain to people what like people do with these. Because they don't eat them, right? And, like even though they wish they could. So
this is a genre. Like, I didn't necessarily make up this genre within the handmade arts and crafts space. There are definitely other competitors, as if we're all competing with our fake food. There are definitely other artists in my space.
It's a cutthroat industry.
It's cutthroat and eat. Stick a fork in me and you're done. So when it comes, I realized that this was a genre 6 years ago or so, and I started the first instance. It came from donuts. I'll explain the origin story here. You'll get the Wolverine origin story. So I am an illustrator. I'm a painter. I actually went to school for that. It's one of the things I didn't DIY. And when I got out of school, one of the things that makes sense for most artists is to just, whether they've gone into a marketable field of art, like, you know, that you actually get paid for, like marketing or graphic design, or something that, again, that you could literally do day to day at some kind of office or company. People will sell their art on the side, and I had made this adorable, we can find a picture for this. this adorable painting of this cat reaching for a donut. It was called Sprinkles. And one thing that I was having a real problem with was getting people to buy printable art. I was trying to turn it into like magnets and stuff, but there's not a lot of utility in that kind of thing. Nobody needs, and to be quite honest, not even the majority of the population, even the art loving population, like purposely buys stuff to hang on their wall. It usually has to be kind of specific and such. So I wasn't really having a great time selling prints of my work. And I was talking about this with and to be honest, even the prints, even like the subject matter, I had taken from an idea where Tumblr was creating a list of trends that they would see every once in a while. And they would show a bunch of art in the same category of the same subject matter. And once they were pedestaling donuts, and I love food and I love fake food, particularly like when I was growing up, I found that I just loved play food. And my sister, my mom also had like been buying me, they would every once in a while, buy me some weird like trinket where it's like a fake little bowl of cereal that I kept on my dresser. It really confused my dates that I would bring over. But I mean, they still stuck with me, even though I was gross leaving a bowl of cereal on the dresser. They didn't know it wasn't real. But when it came to trying to sell this piece of art, I was trying to brainstorm on maybe a way to market it. And my sister was sitting on my bed, and she took this pillow that my ex won for me at a carnival, and she put it on her head. It was a donut pillow. It was just like shaped like a donut. And she goes, "Why don't you make a donut crown?" I'm like, I could. That's a good idea. And so I made 6 donut crowns with craft supplies that my mom was hoarding in the attic. And it turned out that they sold right away. They sold like within a month or two, all of them. And so I kind of kept creating more. These were out of like felt and fabric paint until I literally figured out how to like specifically sculpt. Like this was one of the things that I just like could not, like I had to figure this out myself. These are memory foam, originally cast sculptures of food, some real food, some I haven't made from clay, but just pretty much cast the real food. And I'm one of the only people on the whole side of Etsy that makes food in this material, and obviously like in my own style. And very, as much as, when I think about my life and what I want to take away from this planet, like what the kind of like impact I want to make, I always think about how the greatest goal to achieve is to be a true individual, a true original. Because even that kind of connotation comes with a lot of predetermined kind of details. Like when you talk about being a punk, it originally meant just basically defying and negating what was conventional. But if you think about a punk today, you think of a very obvious look. You think black leather, you think spikes on the jacket, you think mohawk, you think dyed hair. Like that's what punk looks like. But it could look like anything. Like punk was supposed to be anything. It should have been rainbows. It should have been, it could have been wearing garbage. Like it should have been anything. And so when I think about being a true individual, not many people do this.
Well, that's true, and they sure do look good. I think because like wearable food is such an interesting thing, but when you pulled that pie up, I was like, oh, I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, that's new. It's not even on the site yet.
Oh wow. Yeah. So now you said something about a lot of your hobbies have become lucrative. Mm-hmm. Did you find that when you made that step toward making money off of one of your hobbies, did that have any effect on how relaxing they were to do?
To be honest, I was actually just talking to my boss yesterday about this, because my boss at American Eagle, she knits, she crochets, and we've talked before because she knows that I have this business, and I did mention to her, I'm like, watch a business or watch a hobby become a business, because that can kind of change what it is. Funnily enough, like the only difference is I do have some back orders that I have to get to eventually, but because my store is kind of run by my own rules, I could force myself to put more product in there to, to kind of hurry it up and spend more time on it. But I don't necessarily need to. I'm able to control that. And it obviously means I'm not making as much money as if I had a 100% stock store to the capacity that I could. And also, like, I will close down custom orders for large amounts of time because I just don't have time for it. But because I'm able to control my own rules of the store because it's not necessarily a necessary service. Like, if I don't have it, tough luck, guys. I can't, like, and everybody knows, as an artist on Etsy, you also this is not ever, usually it's not somebody's main job. They have to be putting real food on the table, with a day job and such. But when I kind of gauge how much joy it might have taken out of my hobby to make it a business, if I have a free day or a free hour, one of my favorite things is still to make this fake food. When the business was going good, this is 2 years ago, March 14th was my birthday, 2020. I was thinking, what, on my birthday, this is my 30th birthday, I'm going to be turning 30, going to join the 30 club. What do I truly want to do for my birthday? What do I actually want to do? Despite like all the conventions of having a birthday bash, like, what do I actually want to do? And I decided that my favorite thing would have been to just stay in and make a piece of fake birthday cake on my birthday. And I filmed it and I turned it into a video. And then 3 days later, everyone stayed inside for the rest of the year. So
hilarious.
That was, I guess, the opposite of serendipitous. But I mean, I still would have honestly probably picked that to do anyways, because it is so enjoyable to me. And I'm sure that it could happen for people that it becomes more of a hassle, unless, I guess, you create your own rules and your own boundaries and you create on your own time, which, to be honest, makes it more of a commodity, like a hot commodity, doesn't it? Like the supply and demand, like, this is your time, this is your craft. So if you're able to set those rules like that, then it probably will last a long time, not being an obligation.
And it's great that you're able to have that demand for your work, which I think at some point I want to have you on again to talk about, like, how to build that kind of demand and stuff. But I want to keep on this topic of productivity, which is, you had mentioned earlier about fixing your sleep schedule, and I feel like we could do an entire episode on the importance of sleep and everything. But to kind of couple it with that, and how your hobbies have become lucrative, are relaxing, do you still experience burnout?
That's okay. Burnout. So I guess I'm not experiencing burnout right now. Burnout is a term that I would hear most often when it does come to weekly, like, YouTuber making, and I'm sure any other kind of platform, like, it would be Twitch, it would be that kind of thing, because it's performance based. And then when you have an ongoing show like that, you have to do it every single week, and you have to kind of, a lot of the time, fake it. Maybe if you're currently burned out and you're trying to keep the show going. So when it comes to the sleep, I guess I'll go into, like, what was going on with my sleep, because it's something that I'm going to talk about on my own channel eventually, because it's something that I've been really struggling with and trying to get a hold on. I'm somebody who has never been to a therapy session in my life, but knows that it probably would help me. But since I'm such a cheapskate and don't want to spend the money, I guess, on my own mental health, which doesn't make any sense, you probably should. I kind of figured it out myself, or at least I'm just making it up as I go along, which is what I do anyways. And since literally I was 26 years old, before I moved to Los Angeles, I moved when I was 29. So 3 years before, I was getting really anxious because I knew that I had to move to Los Angeles eventually. In fact, one of the things that was keeping me in Pennsylvania to a point that I don't regret at all is that around that time we were talking about potentially producing Galatea, and so I wanted to do that before I moved, and I moved within half a year after that. And I mean, the timing worked out perfectly. It was exactly what I needed. It's what my life resulted in. Like I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Now, real quick, sorry to interject for a second, but just for people who haven't known you as long as me, Galatea is a feature film. It's a sci-fi, and Jess Paul is the female lead in the picture, and you also produced the film. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I produced,
co-produced it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just so the people at home, when they're like Galatea, it's like it's a movie.
And, I mean, you guys will be able to hopefully see it soon. Mm-hmm. Produced it with Benjamin T. Carlucci, Ben T. for short, and one of the proudest projects of my entire life, along with a lot of other projects that you and I have produced together.
Oh, Peter. Shucks, you don't have to make me feel good. I know that you're proud.
Oh, well, the thing is, if you guys ever really want the spelled out on the sand priorities, like if you go to my website, jesspaul.net, which is where all of my film history lives, I have organized my top priority films in order from first to, all the way down to the bottom. So all those bottom guys, where you stand. But no, I mean, honestly, if you're on the page at all, it means it was an important film to me. But Funny Man is number 2 only after Immaculate Reception, because Immaculate Reception, basically, I probably wouldn't have a career. I probably wouldn't know you without Immaculate Reception, like physically, because that brought me to the theater where I met you guys.
That's right.
And it says Sundance on it, so it's like very important.
Yes, Immaculate Reception is a short film that was shot in Pittsburgh and is about a Pittsburgh family as well. And it's a Pittsburgh story, and
it is very much a Pittsburgh story.
Yeah, and went all the way to Sundance Film Festival. And also all the way to another one of the local film festivals here in Pittsburgh, which at the Q&A, Jess Paul was representing the film, which was the first time that I and a lot of the people that I work with got to see and meet her for the first time, which led to A Funny Man, which is the short film that was our first collaboration together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, one of the proudest films of my life.
Same.
Yeah. Still to this day, after everything that we've been through together, for sure. And apart. But so going back to the topic of what were we talking about?
We were talking about burnout, and we were relating that to sleep, but also like, I guess to phrase it the question maybe a little better, is it like with burnout, I mean, a lot of people, how do I say it? Anyone can be amazing for a day. Like for one day, I could get up at 5 a.m. and stretch, workout, and then make myself an actually good breakfast, and then go to work and be like the most productive, like not a minute wasted, and all the rest of it, get back to where I live, do laundry, and like just work, and like I can be amazing for a day. All right. But a lot of people have a hard time doing that for, say, 2 days in a row or a full week, like every day. And at some point, if like you go from being, say, less productive to then I'm going to turn a leaf around and you go nuts with it, it's like you sometimes have to build up to that. I'm not saying no one can like do a complete 180, but it's pretty difficult. And for people who like try to do that before they've maybe done the workout as a person to get to that point, they just get so exhausted, not even necessarily like they need a nap, but just the idea of doing any more like work than they have to, because you have your day job, but on top of that you do you do so many other things, which is really hard for a lot of people to do, which is like after you're done with the maybe the main work that someone does. The idea that maybe like they go to work and then they come back to where they live and then pursue something on top of that, even if it's as simple as practicing a musical instrument, versus having a side hustle or something along those lines. Sometimes people just check out and won't do anything for a while. They have to, work up toward being able to keep that going. So when people have a hard time getting continuing on with their productivity, like when someone just really needs a break, and it's almost like not a choice at that point. That's what I mean by burnout. And so do you experience that, or how have you dealt with that?
Well, I mean, I got to say, like, at least the fake food stuff, that is kind of my release and my expression. So it as much as it is a business, it does feel like a vacation, like a break from the other stuff. I mean, I got to admit, though, I've got really lucky. Like my day job doesn't even feel that much of a chore. I like what I do. And I like everything that I currently in the moment enjoy everything that I do. Of course, it's hard, especially like certain things I feel can drain your energy more than others. And another thing that I'm lucky about is that even before the pandemic, my work has always been work from home. That comes with its own obvious, or maybe not so obvious, downsides, in the sense that, I can, during the pandemic, there could be an entire week where I have not left the house. I have not breathed the outside air, because I was kind of just sticking down inside. But it kind of fit my personality. So more than even like telling people what to do or what works, it is like experiment and see what works best for your own personality. When it comes to sleep and such, just to go over really fast, because I can talk about this more in capacity, but like I ended up developing a sleeping disorder when I turned 26. And it stemmed from a couple things. It was twofold. It was that I didn't know this until very, very recently, that I did have a sort of like nasal impedance that, was causing me to not be able to breathe as well. But also when I paired that with the anxiety that I would feel from day to day of being afraid to move across the country from everyone I knew and loved, from knowing that I was going to go from this little fish pond that I felt that I was, very, the queen of already, I was going to go into an ocean of nobody's ever going to find me kind of thing, and I have to start over. And that scared me so much. It scared me to be judged. It scared me to be even tackling a career that I didn't even know if it would go anywhere, if it would make any sense. And those are the kind of things that swirled around my brain at night, to the point where I needed something to, I would try everything. I tried weighted blankets. I tried sleepy time teas. I tried, counting sheep and all the other the pieces of kind of, advice you could get for falling asleep. And while I was here in Los Angeles, I relied pretty much only on cannabis to help me fall asleep, until I realized that it could actually result in a bad memory. And if there's anybody that needs a good memory, it's an actor who needs to remember lines. So right after I got I'll show you a visual podcast. This is my, it's smeared for me, so I don't know if it's backwards for you guys, but this is my belt buckle from Austin Revolution. And when I got that, I mean, positively, I was now in kind of a renewed sense of accomplishment, because I mean, I was really struggling with this capacity for years, as though even though I was doing so much, I was filling every waking hour, minute with work, and something. Every single moment was continuing and progressing my career. I still felt I wasn't doing enough. I moved to Los Angeles at 29 years old, and, they say that actresses are maybe supposed to expire by 35 or 40. So I was always just under this pressure that I got to do something fast. I need to make it yesterday. I need to have made it yesterday kind of thing. So when I got home, I actually took the advice of my parents, and I got a nasal dilator, which helped me to breathe. And that paired with, again, this new confidence, which you can't force anybody to, now feel more confident about yourself if you're struggling with that. But it's working so far. And I'm only hoping that when it comes to a point where some of these accomplishments have maybe worn off for a little bit, because a lot of good things have happened recently. If things start to get stale, I might only be able to take some of the same, kind of remember how it's been making me feel to just relax, remind myself not to be so hard on myself. Then hopefully I can just use that memory to sleep, be able to sleep, because it's very important. You have to maintain your health. As much as people, they grind, they sleep so little. I get about 6.5 hours of sleep, and that's pretty much enough for me until I might sleep in on the weekend. But that's what I have to do. I wake up to be on an East Coast, early morning meeting with the team, and go to sleep at about midnight. So so that's how the day works. And yeah, that's been working for me, and it hasn't burned me out yet. Again, I really do like what I do, and I feel like I have a purpose. So when I'm doing this stuff, it's actually the thing that calms me. When I have done the most in the day, which I don't know if it's healthy or not, I feel like I can sleep at night, and I remind myself, like, you literally had no more hours. You're out of hours and you use them all. So you're okay. You did enough.
Thanks a lot for sharing a lot of those with us, and even getting more personal with some of it. I think that's really valuable insight and experience for everyone. It sounds like, having a routine, like a lot of people like need those 8 hours of sleep, but sometimes if you're able to work up or work down to like having a healthy sleep schedule that you can maintain, because you're clearly not dead on your feet. You've managed to figure out how to curate your time with being able to do something relaxing, but two birds with one stone, where you're able to chill out and make money at it.
Yeah.
And then you also have your American Eagle photo editing as well. You've also just across the board with like a lot of your content, like on YouTube. I didn't mention before, but you did Rect Radio back in the day, which old school YouTube is like, that's, people know what that is. And across like all your channels that you've done, you've had like, I think it's over 4.5 million views culminated, which is a pretty interesting thing to like have, like, just with being consistent across so many fronts. But I think what's really inspiring for people, like, because I know it's not just me, like I know a lot of the people and the fact that you like you've definitely taken risks moving out to LA, but you've also been able to make your life work. Like, you're accomplishing things. You've been on the like you've been going up with your trajectory as well, with like the accolades you've received, the gigs you've been landing as well, with like the Jerry app commercials, stuff like that. And but it's clearly not by accident. You've got your schedule, you've got your cards, you've figured out that works for you. It's like placing it visually in your space so that you can see it, and but also having it be a routine, being able to roll with the punches whenever you have a free hour and you need to relax. Oh, here's another way to, pay the electric bill or whatever it is, which is great. And so I guess what I want to sort of wrap up here with is a question that I've started to ask people, which, I don't want to talk too much about like, oh, here's why this question is special to me or whatever. But you talked a bit about the impact you want to have with your work as far as like being a true individual, like a true original, which is something that I appreciate a lot as a goal. But with the work that you've done so far, what would you say is something about whether it's your work or working with you. And I could answer this question for you, but I want to, ask you this. With your work or the impact you've had, all that, what's something positive that people have gotten from your work? Like, what's something positive people have gotten out of it?
So do you mean the final product or working with me?
It could be either. Like, for instance, I'll steal one from you real quick. One of the positive impacts you've had working with me is just the joy I get out of working with a talented actor and the artistic fulfillment that we've shared together on projects. That's positively affected and enriched my life, certainly. And I know I'm not the only one. But since I use that as an example, you can't use that. You have to come up with a different one. But yeah, what's something, I think some people might be a little hesitant to answer this because it might sound a bit like bragging, but like, what's something that that your work has done that has positively affected another person?
Well, I'm going to take your answer and I'm going to apply it I'm going to word it in a different way and apply it to anything. Like I said earlier in the podcast, a lot of people do give me compliments for being able to do so much, and you could be very braggadocious about that. I kind of joke about whenever I kind of like do the hair flip thing. It's kind of a joke because it's a shorthand for me, pretending that I'm incredibly superficially, involved in myself, which sometimes I am, but also like it's just ridiculous because I'm in my own skin. And I obviously have already said that I don't feel like I ever do enough. But when I do the work and then create the product, in a way, people are able to see what's possible. And I know that this is very relevant to you because you are a 3-time champion of 48-hour film festival. And when you went to Filmapalooza, you were able to not only, take your place in the line of winners, but you were also able to see how much further you could take it, how much more people were able to do. So when people, give me a compliment or ask me like how I do this, I tell them like, I'm not special. Really early on when I took on Rec Radio and started this, which is kind of where the entire entertainment career started. I did like theater when I was in like ever since I was 10 years old, but that was very, very conventional. And I did not stand out when it came to that. I stood out when it came to, at some point I was the most famous person people knew amongst their group of friends because I had, multi-thousand of subscribers on watching my show every week. But I would repeat, yeah, I'm not special. I only was ignorant enough to think that it could work and I wanted to do it. And so I just did it. And I also, for a long time, it's sad because I feel like, the older you get, the more realistic you become. And when I was very young and ignorant, very blissfully unaware how hard something was to tackle, like when you start a subject, you don't know how much you don't know. So you're like, oh, I'll finish this in a week, when you end up taking like half a year to actually master a craft that you had no idea was going to be so difficult. I really embrace that I would do that constantly. Like to this day, I still don't know how I don't understand how long or how hard something is going to be. But I would do that like constantly. And every tiny little minutia of success or progress would just give me such a high. It would elate me so much. And I would keep writing that. I call it, when I visualize it, I think of stair steps, like that you are, when you have a little accomplishment, you get a little apple box that builds up stairs as you take these little accomplishments, these little successes, and you just keep stacking them up on one another until you're now at a new level. You're now at a new level of reputation. You're now at a new level of skill, and every tiny thing can give you more height. I always tell people, like, my biggest piece of advice is because I'm a visual person, obvi. Put every tiny accomplishment on your wall. Create a space where it's right behind me. It's got scripts from my Chicago movie. It's got all of my badges. It's got my awards. It's got pictures from those events. It's got sometimes I forget about these things. I was in 2020, when the world was ending, I was offered to be keynote speaker at DigiFest, and I don't remember because I didn't physically go anywhere. I sat and in my room and filmed a keynote speech, a 40-minute freaking keynote speech from in front of my YouTube background back there. And you want to remind yourself of the best parts, and then literally try to purposely forget all of the regrets and the negativities, because it only slows you down. That kind of thing. I mean, of course you want to learn from your mistakes. You want to apply what you can do better and make changes. But as far as the things that aren't helping you, that aren't serving you, to remember, like I've counted all of the submissions and the auditions that I went on in the first year of me being here in Los Angeles. And it was like, I want to say like 300 to 400 submissions or auditions that I did not get because that's just how it goes. And I only did that for the YouTube video. I wouldn't have done that otherwise, but I did it in order to show people how much you can fail. And then when I would start to win, I was like, see, another way that I would do that is when it came to art. This is an early video on my This Is Jess Paul channel. I did a sketchbook tour. When I was in high school, I started drawing for the first time again since I was a child, since I was a little girl. And they gave us a sketchbook. And so I would every day, like that was at that point in my life, the come home, kick off the shoes, relaxation time, the hobby time. I would sit on this one chair in my room and I would just draw. And since it's a sketchbook, you were able to go from beginning to end in a couple flips of a page. And to see what I did in 6 months, just because I was continuously, drawing. And I feel like this is also important too. My parents are so cool about making me feel celebrated, even when maybe I don't deserve it, so that I, putting those things on the fridge, hypothetically, at least for my personality, really encourage. And to be honest, this is almost scientific. It encouraged me to continue to do it, to actually get to a place where I could be objectively celebrated instead of, just by the parents. But that's what I like to encourage people. I write articles about how to filmmake in the indie sphere and how to kind of jump over some of those hurdles, because I do a very selfish thing. Everything here is selfish. Like to be an actor, especially, oh my God, no one can tell me any different. Nobody's gonna give me any other kind of way to frame it, because being an actor, it's incredibly selfish. I want to be in front of the camera, and I'm going to be, and that's just what I'm going to do. And it's my priority, and I'm going to do it. But if I want to give back to this world, I want to try to do that as much as I can in another way. And that is to encourage people and show people what I've done so far and how they can do it too. And I hope that is what people take away from me, because it's possible. It's so possible for anyone.
Jess, tell the people back home where they can find your stuff.
So for all social, it is at This Is Jess Paul. And for everything else, honestly, I think I'm the number one Jess Paul that shows up on Google. I know that sounds incredibly narcissistic, but it's just a fact. So if you really don't care to remember all of my handles and everything, just Google me. And jesspaul.net is the main site if you want to actually watch my movies. Like a lot of the shorties are streaming right behind their posters on my website. So yeah, it's all there. It's all there. Just I know you can find me. I know you'll find me.
Jess Paul, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. I'd love to have you on again sometime. It's also just great on a personal... We've got so much more
to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And on a personal note, it's just always great to talk to you. There's, just like even topic by topic, I'm sure that we'll just have you again at some point. So thank you again so much for being generous with your time with us today. And I hope that people who watch this, I'm sure they can get a lot out of it. And I think this is just even though we're going to have you back for other topics, I'm sure this is just something that everybody's interested in hearing about because a lot of our customers are, they have something that they want to do consistently, whether it's a podcast or another type of video series or some other type of media work that they come to StudioME for. To throw in a little teeny weeny itty bitty commercial here for StudioME, we've got one way that we try to help people remain consistent at StudioME is we do have our pro membership option, because even though, in my opinion, even as someone who was a customer before I started working here, I think the prices here are insanely low. But if you're doing something once a week or even just twice a month, maybe it can add up. But that's why we have our pro membership option, so that we can help you be consistent at StudioME, where just for a monthly payment, you get 50% off on studio rentals. And that includes rentals for equipment within the studio spaces as well. So it becomes much more feasible and doable, and all the rest of it, so that you can be consistent with your content at StudioME. So Jess, thank you again very much for speaking with me today. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, Peter. Bye.
Bye-bye.